Good morning. I am at the start of Holme Fell race. We're here quite early because they asked us to get here between 9 and 10, even though the race starts at 11, because they can get everyone through kit check. So I've done that, had my kit checked, that was all good. So I'm just going to chill out for a bit and then do some activation drills and stuff in a bit. I'm not really going to do like a warm-up jog or anything for this because it's a 28k fell race. So I don't think there's too much point in doing a massive warm-up, especially as this is kind of just a little bit of an experiment for me. I'm going to see just how my body responds to doing a longer fell race when I've not been specifically training for it, pretty much. So it's full FRA mandatory kit today. I've got a map, compass, whistle. There's full waterproofs in the bag. We're not going to need them, but I'm going to take them anyway, just in case. So it's a full bag basically, and it's a no kit, no race situation, so you have to bring all of it. And then we've been told to bring collapsible water cups for the water stations as well. So in about 10 minutes I'm going to eat 2 of these Mr. Kipling Bramley apple and blackcurrant pies, and I'm just going to try and get a bunch of water in me over the next hour or so, and make sure I'm properly hydrated and fueled before the race starts. Starting to feel pretty dizzy, I guess. Kind of struggling to kind of pick my feet back up again. So I'm probably not going to finish the race. I think I'm going to get to Holme, and I guess just get like a medical opinion or whatever from Mountain Rescue as to whether I should do the last 6k. But I think getting to Holme is going to be a bit of a death march. Not getting any better. Yeah, something's wrong. I don't know exactly what. because I feel like I've hydrated pretty well and I've eaten well. Could be any number of things, like my period's due. Maybe it's just that. Maybe trying to do a 28k fell race on a warm summer's day is not really what my body's capable of doing at this point of the month. I'm gonna keep plodding. I'm gonna ask the marshals at Black Hill what they think I should do. I think I can plod to Holme Moss, but my legs just aren't like reacting in the way I need them to. So like trying to descend or do any steep ascents is going to be pretty unsafe, I think. Yeah, we'll see what the marshals think when I get to Black Hill. Marshals at Black Hill suggested I just I carry on to Holme Moss because it's not that far, and all the mountain rescue are stationed there for the race, so there'll be like medical people around, and I'm probably not going to get there before the cut-off anyway, to be honest. I've just been taking it slowly so I don't make the situation too much worse. It's not really got any better. I still feel very bad, but it is what it is. Sometimes these things happen. Yeah, so, oh, that is a big green caterpillar. Look at that boy. Can you see it? Oh, that's not hot. Anyway, as I was saying before we saw the caterpillar, yeah, these things happen. I'm not like stressed about it. I think this sort of thing has happened enough times now that I think I know how to just process it and move on. And it's not like it was a goal race, so it doesn't really matter in the grander scheme of things. Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep plodding on. We're not very far from Holme Moss at the minute, so I'm gonna get there and see what the marshals and mountain rescue think.
Obviously, my race didn't end successfully. However, I'll get onto that in a minute. Initially, I'd like to just have a little bit of a chat about the event itself for the benefit of anybody who might have this one on their to-do list. Holme Moss Fell Race is 28 kilometers and it is about 1,180 meters of elevation gain over the course of the route. It is an absolutely stunning route. This is probably one of my favorite places in the country, that kind of Crowdham, Black Hill section of the Peak District. It's deceptive as well. I'd think carefully before entering it, in the sense that there are multiple sections of the course that on paper you're probably like, oh, that'll be all right, and then when you get there it's a lot more challenging than you expected it to be. I've run around this area of the Peak District a lot, and there's something every time that takes me a little bit by surprise, just even if it's just that the path I've chosen was more difficult than I was expecting it to be, or it's much boggier than I was expecting it to be. Even in the height of summer, there are still bog monsters up there, and the climbs on the route are really tough. They're tough climbs. So if you're looking for a challenge, this ticks all the boxes. It's got pretty much everything you want in an AL fell race. In terms of organisation of the event, everything went really, really smoothly. It's organised by Holme Harriers Athletics Club, and they were great. The marshals were fantastic. Everybody seemed to know what they were doing. There was no point where I was uncertain of what was going on or where I needed to be. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for the general race organisation. There are also a couple of extra bits included in the price of the race. We were all given a collapsible cup, as there were no cups at the water stations around the route. So they all gave us a cup to make sure we had one, and this was just something we can keep. It folds out. It's very good quality for something that I've got free from a race, so happy with my new free cup. And then we also all got a sandwich and cake after the race included in the price as well. On Sunday we had 5 points on the route where we could take on extra water. I think one of those was not initially planned, but I think the marshals just happened to take up some water with them. So that was really helpful because it was a grotesquely hot day. In terms of navigation, I don't think the nav for this race is actually that hard. There are several sections where they have to flag it because there's like sites of special scientific interest, and they have to keep the runners on certain trods over certain areas of ground to make sure you're not disturbing wildlife and whatnot. So for that reason, there are several flagged sections, and it just happens that the sections that are flagged are the bits that would have been the hardest to navigate if the flags weren't there. So if you are after a nav heavy experience, then this one maybe doesn't tick those boxes. I'd still say it's well worth running though. All right, that was the event itself, and I'm just going to talk a little bit now about how my race went. Mistakes were made. I went into this as a little bit of an experiment. I know I can complete that kind of distance over that kind of elevation gain, and I have done that kind of distance and that kind of elevation gain in under 4 hours in the winter. Now, the main problem was the heat. I cope very poorly with the heat. It's a genetic thing. We'll blame my dad for having the audacity to pass those genes down to me. I'm just one of those people who's very sweaty. I sweat loads, and it's a problem when it comes to summer races. In hindsight, although I was taking on water really regularly, I was pretty happy with the rate and the schedule I was keeping in terms of like taking in water. I think when I do this again in the future, if it's a really hot day, actually just any long summer race that I ever do, I really just have to have electrolytes in my water. For me personally, that's just going to be, I think, the make or break point in terms of making sure I don't get dehydrated and delirious. I probably do also need to find ways to take on more water as well, and just figure out how to do that without like just feeling like I'm completely full of liquid and everything sloshing around. But we'll figure it out over the next few years. I'm just going to very targetedly work on that heat tolerance over the summer months, and just make sure I'm doing things to work out what the best ways are for me to take on enough fluid to make sure I don't get heat stroke when I'm doing long race efforts in the summer. So that was one of the problems. The other mistake I made was I definitely went out too fast. I think having that kind of like sub 4 hours knowledge in my head, I just let it sit there, and I let it overtake my thought process a little bit, because statistically I should be able to do Holme Moss in under 4 hours statistically. And then just having that there meant I think I was pushing myself a little bit too hard to try and achieve that, when really I should have just been a lot more sensible about the heat and acknowledged that that was just not going to be possible on Sunday. The other thing was I definitely let myself get spooked by the cutoffs, and I wanted to stay ahead of them enough and like comfortably. So I was pushing myself too hard for that reason as well. Really what I should have just done was sit at the back and just literally stay like probably on the cutoffs for the first bit of the race, and then I probably would have been all right to speed up a little bit in the second half. But hindsight's 2020. All of that just accumulated in I got to the bottom of Ladder of Rocks still feeling kind of okay, but then on the climb, that cliff face climb up to Ladder of Rocks, I just started to feel like my head was drifting and my legs were like not really reacting the way I wanted them to. So I just had to take that quite slowly. I had a bit of a sit down at the top, and then I just tried to run again for a bit along the Pennine Way, which I managed for a little bit. And then I just hit that kind of weird wall. I'm sure most people have experienced it at some point, where you try and run and you'll maybe get like 2 meters and your legs will just stop without you telling them to. So I kept trying to run a little bit for a while, and my legs just kept slowing to a walk immediately. So in the end I gave up and hiked up to Black Hill and off to Holme Moss car park and DNF there, which was definitely the right call. I really wasn't feeling well. I did manage to run a bit when I could see the checkpoint at Holme car park, I did run into the checkpoint. So it was less than a kilometre of running. But even just doing that, by the time I got to the checkpoint, I felt, I'd started to feel a little bit better. And then when I did that little like run into the checkpoint, I felt immediately much worse again. So it was definitely the right call to DNF, because I would have just had to hike the last bit of the race, unfortunately, which would have been pretty miserable, and I think would absolutely have resulted in me having some kind of medical incident that Mountain Rescue would have had to come and deal with, and I didn't want to be the selfish runner who was just pushing through things to just have Mountain Rescue come and have to peel them off the ground anyway. So I feel it was absolutely the right call. It was not safe for me to continue, and I will be back for it next year. I'm definitely not upset about my decision. It was the right call, it was the wisest choice, it was the safest choice, and these things happen, and that's just something I'm learning as the years go. I'm still pretty inexperienced when it comes to fell running, and I've just got to have patience, really, and ignore that voice in the back of my head that's like, why aren't you good yet? And I am getting better. I just have to recognise there are improvements happening, like the trend is upwards. It's just certain elements like the heat tolerance, my downhill running ability, those things are just very slow on the progress front, and that's what it is. I'm not a natural downhill runner. I'm very bad at it. I'm very, very scared. So things like that are just going to take me a while to figure out and get better at, and that's the way it goes. My race calendar for the rest of the summer is not too busy now. I've got Salt Cellar this coming Friday, and I've got the last two scored trunces, and then the silly fancy dress trunce race at the end of the season. And I think that's it, unless there's some like random road races that I decide to enter. So in terms of fell running, it's going to be exploring and having more general fun. I've got 5 days away in the Lake District to the end of August, which should be great. Really looking forward to that. I'm just going to try and explore the fells as much as I can during those 5 days, and just have a really, really good time, and a few other like little bits and pieces here and there. So it's mostly just going to be, yeah, getting out and exploring a bit, and spending some time on feet up in the fells. If you've got any races and stuff coming up, feel free to put them down in the comments. I would love to hear about them. But otherwise, I will stop rambling, let you get on with your day, and I will catch you next time.